So about 2 weeks ago, they started road construction right outside of our driveway. So about maybe 10 feet from our driveway. And at first, this is something that they needed to do for a while. And they came and they patched a piece, but we've been complaining about the road like washing out on the ends for over a year. We've been calling in. And without really any warning, one day they put up a sign that says road work starts. And the very next day they started. And the thing is, we were expecting them to take a couple of days, patch the holes. We knew it was a little more serious than that because there's a couple places like I was weed eating and it was like on the side, like not on the road. I was on my part of the land, but I stepped. And this is right where our creek goes through. And so I stepped down, luckily without any pressure and I didn't put my weight on that foot because I would have completely dropped. I would fall in. It turned out to be probably a foot and a half hole that fell under, and it dropped out 20 feet, 20, 30 feet. Like it dropped all the way down. So clearly this needs to be taken care of. We weren't expecting them to go with a nuclear option, even though we realize now how much it was needed. And so they dug up. So for the last 2 weeks, they had this hole. It's probably 20 by 30. And so there's no getting around it. And the thing is that it is only 10 feet from our driveway. This is the way that we drive every day. We're on our road. There's 2 ways out. If we go south one direction, north the other, but most of our light is to the north. And so we have it, I think it's north. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's north. Yes, it is north for sure. Sorry. We have it, we're kind of on autopilot where we go out of our driveway, turn right, and go and do our thing. In fact, it was really funny because last Tuesday, Isaac and I drive separate to class, even though I have to get there earlier than he does. And he typically will take Lindis to where she needs to go first. Either way, the same direction. Because he's so used to turning left for work, for school, he ended up at work on a day he was supposed to go to school. And he texted me, he's like, yeah, I don't know how he ended up here. I'm going to be late to school. I was like, okay, no problem. I looked at Life 360 and realized that it's a complete autopilot onto work. And so that's why I was thinking about this story because how many times have I gone on to Harvard, which is the direction to get onto my road, and then realize I have to go back. That I have to either go around, which adds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles, or I have to turn around and I go probably about the same, maybe 4 miles the other direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 miles the other direction. And I'm doing this. And you think after 2 weeks, you get used to it. But every time I get to the light, I have to tell myself, go straight, go straight. Because I'm so used to after 8 years turning. What does this have to do with leadership? So let me be honest with you. I sat down to record this podcast, and absolutely nothing came to me. Blank screen, blank brain, zero inspiration. And my first thought was, great, Tami, you teach people how to get unstuck. You teach people you teach them about alignment. You teach them about how to show up when you don't want to, and you have nothing. To say that my inner critic was also berating me on this, it was a thing, right? And so I sat down and like, what can I talk about? What is some of the things? And I immediately knew that this feeling, this disconnection, is not writer's block. It was my soul tapping on my shoulder saying, hey, we need to talk. And if you're listening to this and you feel the exact same way about your leadership right now, this episode is for you. If you feel like you're on autopilot, because when is the last time you drove on autopilot? You know the route so well that you just go. You're physically there, but mentally you are somewhere else entirely. And typically it's not a bad thing, right? Because we're driving. I love listening to podcasts. I love listening to music. I talk with my friends while I'm driving because I know how to get where I'm going. But then sometimes you pull into the parking and you're like, I don't even remember if I stopped at red lights. That's what's happening when you're leading out of alignment. You show up, you execute, you check the boxes, but somewhere between your calendar and your calling, you lost the plot. You're going through the motion of your leadership, but you can't remember the last time you felt connected to why any of it matters. And let me tell you that I'm seeing this right now with a lot of the leaders I work with. They're exhausted, not just physically tired, because we can all push through when we're physically tired, but they're soul tired. They're performing their leadership instead of embodying it. They're trying to be everything to everybody, and they're saying the right things. They're making the right moves. They're hitting the right metrics, and it still feels hollow. It still feels like it takes so much effort. And this is what happens. And this is what happens when we disconnect from the plot, from the why, from the meaning behind everything. And they love the work that they do. They love it. You love the work you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have worked your way up in the ranks. You wouldn't be doing it. You would have already, your thoughts would be completely different. Would be like, oh, I need a new job. I need to go somewhere else. I need to retrain in the military term. So we would just retrain into a different career field. So you love what you do. And you also, parts of you dread of the drama that you're going to see Monday morning. Maybe thinking, I should be grateful. Look at everything I've accomplished. You might be thinking, everyone else seems to have it all figured out. What's wrong with me? You might be thinking, if I push through this quarter, this project, this transition, then I'm going to feel better, or then things will slow down, or I'll have more time, or I'll be in a better position to ... all of the things that we put off to later. You might even be waking up at 2 a.m. thinking there has to be more than this. It feels so empty. How do I reconnect with myself, my calling, my purpose? You might even be thinking, is this normal? You liked your job and you want more at the same time. You wish it was easier and that you could lead the way you want to, not the way you feel like you have to. So many times we do these trainings, we learn about leadership, but then we can't actually implement anything because it takes time to make changes. So this is you. Let me tell you what's actually happening. So you haven't lost your edge. You're not broken. You're not ungrateful. You've just been leading from obligation instead of conviction. And you've been doing it for so long that you forgot what aligned leadership feels like. And this is what happens when you skip the first step of my SHINE framework. When you don't see yourself with strategic clarity, you end up executing without conviction. You execute without conviction because so many times we don't slow down to get clarity, and we realize that this isn't the nice to have before the real work. This is the real work. Because clarity isn't about having all the answers. Clarity is about knowing who you are and what you're building towards, so that every decision, every conversation, every leadership moment comes from the place of a strong foundation, instead of from pressure, performance, or even proving. And most leaders skip this step because they think, I don't have time to get clear. I need to execute now. And if you're in my gut triad, if you're one of the gut centers of instinct, you know this even more, this need to just get into action. But even with the heart center, I need to figure out how everyone else feels before I take action. And the thinking is, I need a plan. There's every type of leader. We skip this step because we don't have time to get clear. But here's the truth. Leading without clarity is like building a house without a blueprint. You can stay busy. You can make progress, but you have no idea if you're building towards something that will stand. And so let me tell you a little bit about this. It's a reconnection protocol. This is something that I do often. And actually, it's something that I did when I needed to try to figure out what I needed to talk about for this podcast. And here's what we do when alignment feels like a luxury we can't afford. But the thing is, without clarity, you don't have the luxury to afford it, to wait on it. It will cost you way more to skip this step than it will take in time to do it. And so the first step, this is really not revolutionary. It's not so challenging that you're like, oh, I need to take a week off work. No, you can do this in the moment. I did this in a couple of moments before I pushed record. I asked myself these questions. I went through this protocol and this framework. And then I was like, okay, here we go. Let's do it. So the first one is name what's actually happening. Stop trying to fix it. Stop trying to push through. Stop performing your way out of it. Just name it. I'm burnt out. I'm disconnected from my purpose. I'm going through the motions. I've been performing instead of leading. I'm uninspired. Like whatever it is, name it. Because when you say it and when you write it down or you say it out loud, it loses its power. When you bring things to light, then it loses its power over you. And the naming is the power move. Because as long as you're pretending everything's fine, you can't address what's actually wrong. I had a client who she refused to write down her automatic negative thoughts. She doesn't have any time for negativity in her life. And what we had to work towards is the fact that she was, by avoiding the negative thoughts, by avoiding the ants, then she was actually giving it more power to her life. Once we acknowledge them, once we wrote them down, we actually can refute them and move forward without them. We can decide if we want to keep them or not. So when we name it, that's actually the power move here. The next is to ask the real questions. So step 2 is ask the real questions. Don't ask yourself, what should I do? That question keeps you in strategy mode, which is where you got stuck in the first place, is just what's the next step? But instead, use one of these questions. And so I encourage you to write them down or come back, bookmark this and come back to them, write them down and keep them in your journal, keep them in your diary, keep them in your book, whatever you use, because these connect you quickly to your purpose, your why, to what's going on internally. So the question, what's the last conversation you had that gave you chills? That got you so excited? That you had a visceral reaction because of the conversation you had. Second question is, what pattern have I seen this week that made me think someone needs to talk about this? If you have something you notice, I like to call them highlights. God highlights different things to us. And the crazy thing is that we can have 2 or 3 people having the same experience, but there's a pattern we each see something different based on our wiring. The thing that's highlighted to us is different. And so some people, and I was talking to a lady, her twin sister. We started talking about purpose and I asked her about highlights and different things. And she's actually, my sister and I tend to remember things different. And I was like, and I started asking her a question, and it's because of the bent they have. That yes, they're identical twins, and they still have an internal difference that makes them unique. And so what is a pattern that you've seen this week that made me think someone needs to talk about this? What is God highlighting to you? And I love using the visual highlighting because you can get this book right now. So I'm teaching the seniors. And we're doing calculus and physics. And the book we're using it's combined. Calculus and physics is together. And it's really interesting because either like Isaac, we have one book and then I have the teacher's guide as well, but I read the regular book. And so we'll see who reads it first, and then they're the ones responsible for highlighting. So of course, you know that Isaac wants to give me the opportunity to read the book first because I highlight the important things because he doesn't know what's important in them. So he's learning how to, but still when you read it first, you highlight, and I can go a lot faster because I just read what you highlight. So that's the point, is the idea of what has been lifted off the page or lifted out of the experience that you notice. Next is, what's the thing that I keep saying in private that I haven't said publicly yet? What's something that's stirring inside of you that you know needs to be said, or that it means something to you that you actually feel a burden that you're not saying it? And what do you wish someone had told you 5 years ago? I started my business almost 6 years ago now. We're, just under 6 years. And the things that I know now and the things that I know then are vastly different. The way I carry myself, my values, because I actually sat down and discovered and uncovered what they were and then put them into place. The things that I focus on, how I work with clients, all of this shifted 5 years ago, over the last 5 years. And there's a couple of things that I'm like, if someone would have told me to just embrace the journey, embrace all the ups and downs, and that I'll get here, but without the journey, I wouldn't be where I am today. Then, that's what I wish that someone would have told me 5 years ago. I wish that someone would have told me that autopilot has a place, yes, But there's times that if you stay in autopilot, it's going to take you off the cliff. It's going to take you somewhere you don't want to go. You're going to end up at work instead of school, or instead of somewhere fun like going to the movies. Your autopilot life isn't going to give you the fulfilled life. It's just going to give you what is. And so I want to, these questions, ask them, reconnect to your conviction, not your credentials. They pull you out of your head and back into your heart. And then the third is move from there. Not from should, but from truth. Look at what's actually happening. So you name it, ask real questions, and then move from there. Your next decision, your next conversation, your next leadership moment, let it come from what's true, not what it's expected. Because aligned leaders aren't perfect. They lead truthfully. It's magnetic when you lead through alignment. When you lead through your value and from your conviction, people want to follow you. Whether you have a clear path or not, they trust you. I'm gonna tell you something that most leadership coaches won't. Alignment isn't something that you achieve once you check off the list. It's something you return to again and again and again, especially in defining moments, because our brains love to automate things. So our brains want us to be an autopilot. And so if one of those moments are right now, where everything feels heavier than it should, where your leadership feels like it's more of an obligation than a calling, that's not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're ready for the next level. But you cannot get there by adding just more strategy. You get there by reconnecting to who you are at your core and the way you've actually been built, your bent, your wiring. And that's my work. That's what I do. I don't give more tactics. We do talk tangibles. We do talk like what you can do. But the first thing we do is help you discover your identity so your leadership can come from conviction instead of pressure. And if that's something you need right now, let's talk. Because remember how I sat down with zero inspiration? Here's what happens next. Instead of forcing it, I asked myself the questions above. I asked the real questions, and the one answer that stopped me cold was what's the thing I kept saying in private that I haven't said publicly yet? And it was talking, and in that moment, I realized that they don't have to push through every season. The disconnection isn't failure. That the most powerful thing I can do as a leader is pause long enough to reconnect. Is I can say what has been stirring in my heart, what I have been seeing these patterns to be like. And it actually became easy to write the outline, to write a couple of notes of what I want to say and what I wanted to share. And the reason why it became so easy is because I came from something from within. I didn't force it. So this is the one thing I don't want you to miss. If you don't take anything else from this episode, I want you to hear this. The leaders who are rising in defining moments are the ones with the best strategies. They're the ones with the clearest alignment. They're the ones who are willing to slow down, to speed up, and look at themselves and look at how they're wired, what's going on, and look internally at their conviction, their movement, look at what they know to be true. That's what they're ones who lead from alignment. The decisions get easier, confidence gets stronger, and impact gets deeper. And that's not motivational stuff. That's the work. So I want to challenge you. I want you to block out 20 minutes, not for email, not for planning, not for talking to somebody. Like, block your door or your cubicle. And I want you to and don't execute. There's no action in this moment. I want you to just take 20 minutes this week for reconnection. Go to the questions from step 2 and write down whatever comes up. Here, the questions again, real quick. What's the last conversation that gave me chills? What patterns have I seen in the last week that made me think someone needs to talk about this? What's the thing I keep saying in private that I haven't said publicly yet? And what do I wish someone had told me 5 years ago? Pick one of those and just ask yourself these questions. Just ask it. And then write down whatever comes up. Don't judge it. Don't fix it. Just notice it. Because noticing is where change begins. Once we bring it to light and it loses the power, or the other thing too, if it's something that's like dwelling and stirring inside of you, when you bring it to light, it can grow legs and start taking action. And so that's what I want from you, for you, friend, from you, for you, whatever. And this means so much to me because I've watched leaders who've been struggling for years. And then quickly, when we start to look at themselves with strategic clarity, not just, oh, what is my vision? Oh, what are my goals? Or it's really with specific ideas in mind, with specific goals for this clarity, then we're able to see like the store. They're able to like speed up so fast and decisions become easier. Confidence becomes effortless. Their leadership becomes effortless. The drama they experience it shifts because they understand their internal reactions and they can manage that, which changes their team members' reactions. This is not a luxury for those who have time. This is if you feel the burden of time and you feel things are so rushed, if you start with this, everything gets easier. And if you want to talk about it, if you're ready to start with this and you want to know, because it's pretty simple. It just takes a few quiet moments to get clear. I don't want to say this is going to be so hard or so time consuming. Yes, real transformation takes time. This is not a quick fix. This is not a plug and play. This is not just read this book and you're going to be miraculously better or a magnificent leader. This is stepping back and asking yourself, what kind of leader do I want to be? And what are my strengths that I can achieve this from? That's it. All right. So if this has stirred something, if you get on my calendar, TamiMarieCoaching.com/call. And this call, it's not a salesy call. I want to help you see what your next step is. So this is a roadmap. This is an audit. This is a next step for you. Whether we work together or not, I want you to walk away with clarity, to understand what your next steps are, where you have been on autopilot, and what small changes can make a big difference. So get on my calendar. Let's chat. I have a few more open for 2025. Like we are coming to a close of 2025 and I'm actually building out my calendar for 2026. And even that is starting to get filled up, which I'm super excited about because the fact that so many people are seeing that leadership doesn't have to be hard makes me so happy. All right, friend, choose joy until joy chooses you. And I'm so grateful that you're here. Welcome. I realized I just got into it. I didn't even introduce myself or the podcast. So welcome to A Leader's Purpose podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, please leave me a rate and review. It helps the algorithms know that people like the episode. It helps me see what is resonating. And it'll just warm my heart also to see that you're enjoying this. All right, with that, choose joy until joy chooses you. Bye for now.